Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to this week's episode of Coffee with Chris. Hey, this week's going to be a little bit off the cuff. Um, like last episode, I've got no notes, and I just am going to go with it. And so, you guys sit back, have your coffee. Mine's steaming hot. You probably can't see it, but I literally just poured it, or I guess the Keurig poured it. But um, man, it's been a busy week, and it's not going to slow down at all. I finally got the laser going, and as you guys know, I've talked about it. The laser has been sitting in the corner of my office, put together, assembled for, I don't know, man, a month and a half, 2 months, and I've just avoided dealing with it or learning to use it because it has intimidated me so much. And so we finally got it fired up this week. It's out in the shop now, which frees up some room in the office, but it's out in the shop the last 3 days. I've been learning how to use it. I've watched, I don't know how many hours of tutorials and tips and tricks on not just laser engraving, but specifically even on the one that I have, which is a cheaper engraver. I bought the longer Longer Ray 5, um, and that was one that I bought before Christmas, before my back surgery, and I thought, hey, during back surgery, while I'm down recovering from that, this will be a cool thing to learn how to do, and be able to add some customization to the products that we take to our vendor shows and that we do for realtors and things like that. And I never did get to it during that recovery period while I couldn't be out in the shop really, and until this week haven't really got to it. And so I've spent all week um, watching tutorials and learning how to use my laser engraver. And I mean, I don't have any reference for more expensive ones. I'm sure the nicer models and brands that you get, maybe the more features and things, but I've been pretty impressed so far with this cheaper one. And if anybody's got any of y'all that do laser engravers, if you have a longer Ray 5, mine is a 10 watt that I'm starting out with, and I bought the extended bed kit for it so it can hold a longer. It's instead of 400 by 400 like I think they typically come in. Most of them, mine now is a 400 by 850 millimeter bed, so that's approximately 16 inches by 31.456, I think, actual inches. And so I thought the longer bed would lend to being able to do some bigger signs and some things like that. So I went ahead and put that on there. But if anybody has that laser, I would love some tips if you've used it, if you've been using it for a while. Is there anything I need to know about that maybe just doesn't come standard? And I'd love for you to share that with me. And so maybe that'll save me some headaches down the road. But yeah, I've enjoyed playing with it so far. And I think it's going to add a big piece of the pie to our business, being able to customize some things. I like doing cutting boards and charcuterie boards and things like that, especially in the fall going into the holidays. We did really well with those last year. I've talked about that before. The laser will give me the ability. I've had this vision in my head for a long time of putting some scripture, Bible verses, and some sayings and things like down one edge of the cutting boards and just adding, a little bit of something extra to them. And so I've got some things like that. But I do want to share with you um, my first project. Now I've done test cuts and done some sample grids for learning the speed and the power of it and things like that. What works on different materials, and that's will be what the rest of my day to day is doing as well. But my first project that I'm starting on with it, from the etching standpoint, is I've started on a sign for our actual woodworking business, 23 Roses Woodworks. And this one is going to go to the vendor shows with us Ever since we started doing vendor shows, we've seen vendors that have really nice signs hanging, on the outside of their tents or their booths. And I've always wanted to be able to make one of those. And so this is going to go to our tent and outside of our booth. And that's just the first part of it. I'm going to, of course, clean it up. That's just a big square of 3/4 inch ply. We're going to get that all cleaned up, maybe do a stain on some of it. And then I'm going to have some signs that hang down underneath it that just kind of say what we do or what's available, customization available, things like that. So I've always wanted to have one of those. So I'm excited to be making that next week, because our first vendor show of the year, I can't believe I'm even saying that, but our first vendor show of the year is next Saturday. And so this coming week is going to be really busy, suffice to say. We're doing something different this year. We're splitting our booth up, and half the booth will be for the woodworking business, and the other half of the booth will be for my wife, Beth, for her apparel business. She decided this past week to get rid of the online ordering, and I know in a few of the videos I promoted that. And so I went back and took the link down off the description on those few videos that we talked about that. But she's getting rid of the online ordering site. It just hasn't been something that's, fit in the dynamic of what we wanted to do with that business. And it's been more of a financial burden paying for all of that. And so we just decided, or she decided, I should say, that we're just going to keep that business local. Now, I think in the future, I may go ahead and continue to promote her shirts, her designs on the channel. And I'll have to figure all that out, how that works, but where you can order through her for those if you're interested in those shirts. So we'll still probably be doing that coming up, but it will be done more through ordering through the channel or directly with her through her Facebook page, more so than an ordering website like we had set up. So, but nonetheless, we'll have our booth split up half and half. So that'll be interesting. We're going to have to figure that out with the space. And so half for her stuff and half for my stuff, so to speak. So that'll be fun. But yeah, next week is going to be incredibly busy. Like I said, it's our first show of the year. We're a few months behind because of tennis matches and family events and things. We've just haven't been able to get to one. So we're excited about it. We're looking forward to it. But it's always a lot of work leading up to it, because I've got to go back and see what I've still got left over from last year's vendor shows, and see what I want to fill in the gaps with for this first one. This first one's really more about getting her established locally and helping her get set up. So I'm probably going to use all my leftover stuff and kind of piece together my half of the booth and really focus on her. But I do got to put some product out there, because we got to make some money so we can keep buying wood to build stuff, right? So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, next week's going to be super busy, maybe busier than this week. So, but I do have one more little build I want to show you, and this will actually be the video coming out this next week on Tuesday, I believe. And so it's another little craft video, and it's a super viral video that's been out there, super popular. You've seen them on YouTube, you've seen them everywhere, but it's the floating cross. And I thought, normally I don't get into these, viral sensation type videos and things like that, but what the heck? We'll throw our hat in the ring and see what happens. So this is my quick version of the floating cross. I did it in one day. I just took some scraps of cedar and pieces of things I've had left over from other stuff and made it. And so I just threw it together. I did it as I went, and made a video out of it for this week. So coming up. So my version of the floating cross, I think it's pretty cool. I'm going to make a few more of them with different designs and styles for the vendor show next weekend. So I'm going to put some more together this week, but yeah, threw my hat in the ring for that, and we'll jump on the train while the train's rolling with that viral project. So, but anyways, that's the builds I've got for you this week, and so not too much. I didn't get any submissions sent in, so I don't have any to share with you. But guys, send your submissions in, things you're working on. I beg and plead every video to do that, and I'm going to keep doing it. So email right below me here. Please send those in. I love sharing your builds and the things you're working on. Again, give me a description with them, and however you want me to describe them or talk about it, that's how I'll do it. So but let's get on to our topic that we had talked about last week, carry it over into this week. And you'll have to pardon me, my printer ran out of ink this morning as I was getting ready to print off the comments that were left, so I'm going right off the phone, and I hate doing that while I'm filming a video, but out of necessity, that's what we're going to be doing this week. And so I haven't read these comments. I haven't been on my channel really at all this week until this morning because I've been just busy with between yard work and the laser and everything else. So I self-admittedly haven't even read these comments until we're reading them right now. So we'll see how it goes. But we were talking about comparison. We were talking about the power of comparison, or the issue with comparison, and for this week, the danger of the comparison. And so I want to read a few comments we got off of last week's video, and then from there, I just kind of wanted to get into the danger of comparison and what that can cause and what that can do. So we did have a few comments this week that were just complimentary comments on the videos or this particular conversation from last week's video. And so I want to say thank you to the Creative Maple Woodworks and Joe V1W5P for leaving just the kind words. Thank you so much. I definitely read them, and man, they're the fuel that keeps you going making these videos, because it can wear on you, not so much physically, but are you doing the right thing? Are you saying the right things? Are you putting out the right stuff? And that kind of thing. We've talked about that before. So so I appreciate the kind words and the comments, guys. But in relation to the actual topic here, we did get 3 comments this past week, so I want to go over those with you. And so let's get reading those. Our friend James Rohrbach, 9147, he said, "This conversation reminds me of saying from the years ago, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. What people may not realize or don't consider is that all that green might just be weeds. How many people actually want a yard full of weeds? My guess is not many." Well, part of my front yard is full of weeds, and I can tell you I don't like it. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing is like I talked about last week, we see what other people have on social media, or we see what they're doing on Facebook or YouTube or whatever, and we think, oh my gosh, that must be so nice. Oh, I wish I could do that or have that or go there or afford that or whatever. And like I said last week, we've got to take it all in context. The truth is, we don't know the situation with what's going on. And I made the comment last week, and I'll stick to it this week again. And I know this from personal experience. Typically, you'll find, and from social media, that the more people put out, the more what I call humble bragging, which is, I'm not going to directly brag about everything, but here you go. And I'm not saying, look, I'm not saying don't post things on Facebook. If you're into doing social media, don't share that your kid won an award or a prize at school. I mean, those things are fantastic. And they're especially great if you want family and friends that don't live near you to be able to keep up with things, or you're sharing things with them. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm not saying don't post things on Facebook, right? What I'm saying is, when we look at things, don't always take it for face value, because a lot of times all these big vacations that people take, you don't know what the situation is. You go, oh man, I wish I could afford to do that. they're probably deep in debt going on all these vacations. Not everyone, but I would say the majority of people. I used to do it. I would go on a trip. We would charge it all on our credit card and spend the entire year trying to pay it off, or wait till we get our tax return to pay it off. And that cycle just repeats. And people do that a lot. And so, again, I'm not saying that's everybody, but I'm saying when you look at people, those are the situations you don't know what's going on. When you say, "Oh my gosh, look, they're so happy, they're perfect, they must have a great life," their marriage may be in turmoil. It may be difficult. They may be arguing and fighting all the time, and going on vacations helps them to um, have a little ease from that. They get back home, things blow up again. So again, I'm speaking from personal experience. Um, Again, not my current situation. I'm very blessed, but past. But I'm just saying, and I know a lot of people that do that or that have gone through that, and so don't always take everything at face value. The grass is not always greener on the other side. Um, and if it is greener, like I talked about last week, if it is green grass and not weeds, and if it is greener, it's because it's probably had a lot of work put into it to get that way. So take everything in context. It's about the perspective. Let's see here. Next one we got. Um, Hold on, sorry. Got to find them, like I said. I hate having these not typed out. Um, let's see. Our friend M. Blackford 100, he wrote in this week saying, "As they say, hindsight is 2020. I think as we grow older, we realize that when you start comparing what you have achieved in life to what others have achieved or what someone else has compared what you have, you start basing your values on what those others have, and it guarantees you will eventually feel inadequate. It breeds a less than mentality that minimizes your own unique achievements. I also believe, from a Christian worldview perspective, that once you come to the realization of what has been given for your redemption, that it humbles you in some of those other areas of life. You should still have desires, have goals, and have drive to see them through, but hopefully it is from a desire to please Christ and not from being envious of others." Man, we could be sitting here all morning, and I could talk about this. This may make for a longer video. And I'm gonna try not to get emotional as I talk about this, because this is the view that I've been working on for. I'm always transparent with you guys on this channel, on these talks, and on my other videos, and I'm going to continue to be so. And so, man, this is a view that I've worked on for 10 years now. Yeah, 10 years. And I've tried and worked really hard on changing my view, changing my thoughts and my perspective on how I look at and value what's important in life, in my life. And man, he's right. When we get into comparing ourselves to other people, if we let ourselves get in that trap, we really start to devalue what we've done or what we have or what we do, so on and so forth. And that leads to a bad spiral, because you start to really change who you are, to live differently, trying to outdo, or what you think is outdoing, all the other things you see, the other people you see, when you don't think yourself as good enough, or you don't think what you're doing is good enough. Man, it really puts you in a place you shouldn't be in or don't have to be in. And that's a man, that's a long, deep video, right? So, but that's what it does. It puts you, the comparison game causes you to change who you are and changes your morals and your values sometimes. And what he's talking about here from a Christian point of view, which I am, from a Christian point of view, when you run your decisions and you run your work and you run the way you live through the filter of Christ, through the filter of Jesus, what that allows you to do is really take the worldview out of it. And that helps with your envy and your jealousy. That helps with keeping who you are at the core, who you are, and not changing things to try to match what everybody else is doing and what you're seeing. And man, it, I'll give you an example. I used to, it was to the point at one point in time where I would pull up at a stoplight and the guy next to me or the lady next to me, there'd be a really, really nice car. And and don't get me wrong, I've always had, you know, normal nice cars. Um, and so I've, never had an issue with not having transportation or something that ran well. But they were normal cars. They weren't, you know, uh, anything crazy. And I can't, I'm trying to think of an example, but anyways, I would pull up to a light and there'd be somebody next to me with this big truck or something just that was better than what I had, right? Better, cooler than what I had. And it was to the point where I would just be mad at those people for having that. I would be angry at those people for having that. And, like, I hope something breaks on it before they get home because they shouldn't have that if I don't. I mean, I was at that point at one time in my life, years and years and years and years ago, and man, that's tough living that way. It's tough always doing that, and we could do that with everything in our lives. That could be our home or our jobs or our YouTube channels or whatever. But yeah, so Marvin, thank you so much, man. I could talk on this forever, and for those of you that I'm sure there's somebody that may watch this or have seen some of my videos that uh, talk about me preaching on anything. Well, I could preach on this for a long time, and because it's something that it's really been a big part of me trying to be content and be happy in life, and something I've really worked on over the last 10 years. Um, and man, it's made a huge difference in just day to day mental health and emotional health. And that's a term I don't like using because I'm not an expert on that, but I mean that from a perspective of, when you go to bed every night and you lay your head down on the pillow, if you're content with who you are, what you do, and what you have, it sure makes that night's rest a lot better. I guess that's the easiest way I can explain it. I'm not an expert on that stuff, so somebody may have some thoughts on that. Um, but let me get on to the next one here. These are from our friends at Alder and Elm Woodworking, and he says, "Hi, Chris. This conversation is important in all aspects of life. You are correct that all we have that you are correct that we all are subject to the dangers of comparison. Sometimes it is healthy competition that inspires us to be better. Other times it can be defeating and keep us from doing anything, or worse, tear us down. I have found that people often compare themselves to someone else's end results and expect the same outcome for themselves without considering the work, experience, and setbacks that happened along the way. The quote, 'Comparison is the thief of joy,' comes to mind. That is why it is important to celebrate the wins, no matter how small. Those small victories build confidence and remind us that progress is being made. I have fallen victim to comparison myself, and it rarely leads anywhere positive. Focusing on personal growth and measuring progress against where you were yesterday is usually a much more productive approach." Man, you just summed up the last week of this week's video with that that comment there. Yeah, I mean, um, well, first of all, let's talk about the improvement and the growth. Um, that is also something that I'm learning is that I don't have to be the best right off the bat. I don't have to be number one right off the bat. And you have to be okay with maybe never getting to that point, right? The journey is in the trying and the doing the best you can. Um, but you have to know that that end destination um, may not be the perfect scenario, and that's okay. You've got to get okay with that. Um, I have a quote I saw. I read and I heard a lot of times when I was preparing to start this channel or first starting this channel, from all the gurus that teach you how to do YouTube and help you to, make $1 million on YouTube, which, by the way, is not, is not the case for 99.9% of content creators. If there's a percentage higher than 99.9%, whatever that number is, there are a few out there that do really, really, really well, and I watch a couple of them, and so do you guys. But there's a quote that I saw a lot watching these videos, learning just how to do YouTube and edit and post and all that kind of jazz, and how to try to grow a channel. And that was, so many people said, you got to try to be 1% better every day, 1% better at every video, 1% better every build or whatever it is you're doing, right? And I love that. I actually have a sign out in the shop that I've got to make a frame and a backdrop for, but it's a metal sign that I ordered. Came in a lot smaller than I thought it was supposed to be, but nonetheless. But it says 1% better every day. And so that's kind of my motto and my theme, is just working on that small improvement on yourself or your business, your whatever you're doing, every day. And man, that really, really helps with your personal growth and becoming who you want to be in a healthy way, right? And so, yeah, and he used the quote. They used the quote. They talked about the quote. Comparison is the thief of joy. And so I think that's really the point of all this, is that if you spend all your time trying to be someone else or to do what someone else is doing, I think you're going to compromise who you are and compromise what your goal is. And I want to talk about that a little bit more next week. I'd love to get some more comments on this topic and this subject if you want to share them. And so I want to, next week's video is going to be a state of the channel address, I guess. And I want to talk about where the channel's at right now, and where the channel, it's summertime coming up. What kicked this into gear is the summertime is coming up, and so of course that lends to vendor shows, craft fairs. People purchase differently from a retail standpoint during the summer, and of course vacations and things like that. So summertime is usually busy. Even though kids are out of school, it always seems busier. And so summertime's coming up. And then transparency, I actually put a little small post on the channel this morning, but the channel, our channel More Than Sawdust, is really close to the next big step that YouTube gives as a goal for channels. And that is 4,000 watch hours. And so I say really close, 600 and something-ish away, 630-ish hours away. But it's inching up there a little bit at a time. And so that lends to the availability, or the ability, I should say, to become monetized through YouTube. And like I put on the post this morning, I haven't even looked into that. I don't even know what that looks like. I don't even know what that process looks like. And when I say monetized, I don't mean like I can quit doing everything but our YouTube channel. We're a small channel. That's not the case. But working towards that goal of being monetized does give a little bit of relief. Now, we're talking pocket change, monthly pocket change. It's not a lot. But it is like an achievement goal, an accomplishment goal. And so the channel's not going to change. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing regardless. That has nothing to do with anything. But because summer's coming up and we're getting into vendor fair time now and things like that, I just want to talk about the state of the channel and what I've got planned for the future for it, what we're going to keep doing. and the kind of builds that we're going to be doing over the summertime and things like that. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that too. If you've got anything you'd like to see from the channel for the summertime coming up and into the fall. Obviously, fall lends towards crafts and builds for us for Christmas and things like that. So I'd love to get suggestions or anything from you guys and get your thoughts on what you'd like to see from the channel going into the summer and the fall. More tips and tricks videos, more stuff on the business building. We've talked about that. And we've done some videos on that. And then I just want to share with what I've got planned coming up that really fits into the woodworking business we have. That's what we're really going to be focusing on is builds that aid and assist in the woodworking business. So we'll get more into that next week. I've done a lot of rambling. Here's the email. Send in your builds, man. I want to spend more time on these videos sharing woodworking builds and things that you guys are doing. So send in your builds to me, or if you got any comments you don't want on the public viewing of the video comments, you can send those to email as well. Thanks for joining me again, guys. I appreciate it so much. Again, I'm so blessed and I'm so thankful for all of you watching. We'll see you next week. Take care.